Welcome to CS288 Windows Network Administration. I am your instructor, Robert McMillen, and today's module will be Module 8 Presentation, where we will be talking about certain objectives as well as doing a demonstration of the lab for you. And our objectives for this particular module are going to be talking a lot about group policy. So there's group policy that affects the users and computers on a network and an Active Directory domain, and then computer policy and user policy, which is the group policy split up into two different subsections. Then we've got the resultant set of policies, group policy commands you can use, organizational units which are affected by group policy, and there's also scripts that we can run, and of course accessing group policy itself. So let's talk about group policy. Group policy is the central component in change and configuration management in Windows Active Directory. So what that means is that we can change any part of the Windows client experience from group policy. We can make things disappear, we can add things, we can run programs, we can make them run in the background and the foreground. There are thousands of different things you can do, and you can affect one person, a group of people, or everybody. You can use it to change the behavior of any Windows computer connected to the domain. You can change a single computer, many, or all computers at one time. And of course, if you don't do it right, you can lock yourself out. When you open a policy, you're going to see the policy split into two categories with the computer policy at the top. Any changes here will affect any computer that is logged in regardless of the user. Changes can include many things like password policies, hiding policies, redirecting folders, and lots of other things as well. So here is a group policy. And you can see, just as I was describing, you have the computer section and you have the user section. So I'll explain what those are a little further, but you can see if you expand them, you end up with a lot of options. And the options just keep going on and on and on. So we're going to get into some of those in just a little bit. User policies. The user part of this part of group policy affects the user who is logged in regardless of which computer they use. So the first one is affects the user, the computers themselves. So it doesn't matter who logs into those computers. This policy is it matters who logs in, but it doesn't matter which computer they log into. So that's why they're split that way, because sometimes you might want to affect one, sometimes the other, sometimes both. So you can make the same types of changes as computer policies seen earlier. It allows user policies allows users to switch computers, but have the same policies applied wherever they go. Not all computer policies are also available in user policies. So if we go back to our group policy here, even though in the beginning it looks like the policies are exactly the same, policies, preferences, policies, preferences. When you start expanding them, you're going to see different policies that affect the computer, but don't affect the user, and vice versa. All right, let's go back to the next slide here. Resultant set of policies. This is a very powerful tool used for troubleshooting. It helps find what policies are applied. So if you want to see, hey, where did I get that policy that says how long my password should be? Then the resultant set of policies tells you. It helps detect conflicts. So if you have two different group policies, both assigning the same password length, but one, password length type of edit, but one says 8 characters and the other was edited for 10 characters, and then you're wondering, which two those are, so you can solve the conflict. So let's talk about resultant set of policies. It helps find what policies are applied, like we said. Can be used for both computer and user policies, and you pick the user and the computer they log into to see the applied policies. It also checks for blocked policies. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. Let's close our group policy, and we'll go to our group policy results. Now this does the same thing as the resultant set of policy, but we can actually launch that as well by command line or by GUI. If you open up the MMC, you can actually add the snap-in for resultant set of policy, and you can walk through the generate RSOP data. So I personally like to use the group policy results, because it gives it to you in a little bit different format that I find it easier to find. So you can choose which computer we're talking about, and we can go ahead and choose the client computer in this case. There we go. And the client computer actually has to be turned on at the time, so let's do that. All right, now we have it turned on. We'll select the administrator. Next, and finish. So you get this really cool report that shows up. Make sure you add when you get prompted for it. And it tells you a little summary of what's going on. Gives you the details. So if you look at the details, you'll see the different policies we were talking about earlier. You see the computers, and then you see the users, just like earlier. So let's go ahead and click Show All. And it goes in through each different possible policy. For instance, this one shows the password history, the password age, etc., etc. And it tells you which group policy is actually applying that. In this case, it's the default domain policy. So when you go through this, if you see more than one policy doing the same thing, then you take a look at this winning GPO and you decide, oh, this is the reason why this particular policy is being enforced. And it'll even tell you also if there's a conflict. You'll actually see in parentheses that there's a conflict, and then you'll know that you can go ahead and fix it where it is. You also have the policy events tab as well, which takes a little bit to generate, and then sort of gives you like an event log of the group policy events, similar to event log in the event viewer. So we can take a look at some of the different messages that come up. All right, let's move back to our group policy discussion. So you can also do group policy commands, which we will be doing some of these. The first one is GP update, and that updates the policies without having to log off or reboot. So basically what that means is that group policy by default gets applied when you log into your computer. But if you don't want to log off and log back in, all you have to do is type GP update, and it will update all the policies while you're logged in. So it saves you from having to do that. Now, GP result is another really good tool. It's another command that tells you what policies were applied in a command line situation, and it does it very quickly without having to go through all the different things that we just did. So if you just want a quick, just to see what's been applied and what hasn't been, then you do a GP result. It doesn't necessarily tell you why something didn't get applied. It just tells you what was applied and what wasn't. The GP fixup command is used to resolve domain name dependencies in group policy objects and group policy links after a domain rename operation. So if your domain gets renamed for whatever reason, so from widgetllc.internal to say widgetllc.local, something like that, then GP fixup will help fix up any policy problems that happen because of the rename. So organizational units are important to group policy because that's where the group policies are applied. So you can apply them at the top level using the default domain policy, which just applies to everything in the domain, or you can apply them into individual organizational units to affect smaller groups of people. And you can apply some, both to some and some to others, which is what we're going to do in our lab. So let's take a look at that real quick. So if we look at our group policy management, we can see accounting, finance, domain controllers. This mimics, as we talked about in a previous lab, this mimics everything that's in Active Directory. So if we create a group policy here and affect it, then it'll just affect the executive committee only. Whereas if we do it up here, it affects everybody in every single OU. Scripts are really useful for applying group policy. I get asked to write scripts for group policies several times, and some of the scripts that I've written do things like delete printers or run programs or run logins, drive mappings, things like that, or to even uninstall software. So those are all scripts you can have run. So besides applying changes directly to the group policy, you can also run a script and just say to group policy, hey, when this person logs on, run this script. So the script itself is separate from group policy, but it's run by group policy. Scripts can be written to any common share, so it has to be available to anybody that it's being applied to. Group policy can activate that script to make the changes, such as a logon script or application update, as I mentioned. So you want to make this sure that the script is type is allowed or won't work. So what that means is some scripts are written in things like Visual Basic, and Visual Basic is by default blocked in Server 2012. So you have to unblock the basic script before the script will actually run. So we access group policy in a couple of different ways. Group Policy Manager, which is in the Server Manager tools, and that's where we just were. So all I did was go to Server Manager, go to Tools, and then choose Group Policy Management. You can also open up the MMC and then add the Group Policy Management snap-in, or you can run GPMC from a command prompt and it'll bring it up at that point as well. So in our objectives for Module 8, we talked about group policy, computer and user policy, split into the group policy, RSOP, and the group policy modeling results, and group policy commands, organizational units, scripts, and accessing, how to access group policy. So now let's go ahead and take a look at our lab. We need to have DCO1 turned on, our client turned on, and we're going to do some group policy work. So we're going to start by going into Server Manager DCO1 and then go to Tools and Group Policy Management. Here is our DCO1. Click on Tools and Group Policy Management. So expand widget.lc.internal if it's not already been done, and you can see there's our IPAM policies we did earlier. We're just going to leave those there. And what we're going to do is we're going to make some changes to the default domain policy as per the lab, because there are some things that the company wants everybody to have when they log into their computer, such as a unified desktop background, password length, and things like that. So let's just go ahead and right-click on it and choose Edit. Expand that, and you can see, as we showed earlier, the computer configuration and the user configuration. So according to our lab, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a change to our password policy. So under the computer configuration, we're going to go to Policies, Windows Settings, Security, Account Policies, and we'll expand that a little bit there, and Password Policies. And by default, we're at the minimum password length of 7 characters. So go ahead and change that to 8 characters. And now, whenever anybody logs in, they're going to have an 8-character password, or it will prompt them to say you need to have a longer password when you create a new password. All right, so now that the password part is done, go ahead and follow the directions just to go back to Module 8. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to download this Windows LLC logo. So when you download it, go ahead and put it on your DCO1 and create a folder in DCO1. Let's go to this PC, C drive. There we go, the C drive. Create a folder called Public. Right-click on that Public folder and go to Properties. Then go to the Sharing tab. Click Advanced Sharing and share the folder and call it public. You don't have to make any other changes than that. All the defaults are fine. Go ahead and click OK and close. So we want to put that file into this folder, and just to make it easier to name it, let's go to View, and we'll call it File Name Extensions. There we go. And just rename the file by right-clicking and choosing Rename, and call it just logo.ping, just so it's a little bit easier to type in when we get to this next portion here. Now let's go ahead and change the desktop wallpaper. So this time we're going to go someplace different. We're going to, let's just collapse the computer one, and we're going to get into our user configuration and go to Preferences and then Control Panel Settings. Oh, I got ahead of myself there. So we're going to do the wallpaper one first. So in order to get that, we've got to go to the users, preferences, control panel, and then we're going to, let's see here, control panel settings. There we are. Very good. Policies. Administrative templates. Desktop. There we are. It was hiding from me. Go to the desktop wallpaper, and you've got to enable it before anything will change. And then we're going to put in the name / DC01 public logo.ping. Then click apply, and then OK. And you can see here that it is enabled, so we're in good shape. Now we're going to go on to down here at the bottom here, the control panel settings, and we're going to make a change to the internet settings, and we're going to make an Internet Explorer 10 change. So actually, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that so we can recreate it here. So right click, choose New Internet Explorer, and you have the choice of 8 and 9 if you're using an older version of Internet Explorer like on Windows 7, or 10 if you're on Windows 8 or Windows 10. Even though Windows 10 uses the Edge, it still has Internet Explorer on it. So we're going to put in our old favorite website, www.widgetllc.com, and check the box that says start with homepage, otherwise this won't get affected. Go ahead and click apply and OK. So now we have made 3 different changes: password change, making at least 8 characters, and then we've got the desktop, and then we've got the Internet Explorer change. So we are good there. We can go to our desktop and choose GP Update Force, but it won't actually affect anything. And the reason for that is because if we go back into our policies, we're on a domain controller, and domain controllers are only affected by default domain controllers policy. So we need to log into our client, and our client, that's where we'll see the difference. So all you have to do is log in, and when you log in, the GP update will just happen. And there it is. There is our logo that we created earlier. And now let's go ahead and try our Internet Explorer, make sure that it also opens up. Oh, there it is, widgetllc.com. Now we don't have our router 01 open, so we're not going to get our page to come up, but the important thing is that it does show up when we open up Internet Explorer. Now if that didn't work for you, there's a really odd issue with, and again, don't worry about the page not coming up. There's a really odd issue with applying changes to group policy. So go back into your Internet Explorer settings that you did and make sure that these lines are green. If they're not green, that means that they were never saved, even if you clicked OK and walked away from it. So make sure that you go in here and you press F5, and you'll see the apply button pop up. Click apply and then click OK. So then go back to your client. Again, if this worked, you don't have to worry about this, but if it didn't, then that could be the reason. Go back to your client and run GP update / force, and then that will update the Internet Explorer to use the widgetllc.com as your starting page. Also, don't forget, just logging in doesn't make GP update actually run. You need to restart and log in. So either do GP update / force or just completely reboot and log in. Either one of those will get you where you need to go. So let's go back to our lab for a second here and see what's next on the list. So we did all that good stuff, and now we've got some problem employees. The IT manager wants to create a group policy that just affects the salespeople. They've been shopping online, downloading viruses, doing all kinds of stuff like that. So we're going to open our group policy once again and right-click on the sales OU on the left and choose to create a GPO and link it in this domain. So here's our marketing sales group. We're going to right-click and we're going to create a new group policy object and link it here. So we're doing a brand new one from scratch, which is cool. So we're going to call this one Lockdown Users. All right, the policy is only going to affect the salespeople. This is the only OU we're going to apply to. So we're going to go back to the same place we were before, the users, control panel, and then we're going to go to internet settings. We're going to create another new Internet Explorer 10 deal. You can see nothing's saved, so you see the red underline there. So nothing's saved there. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a proxy to make them force them through another location. So click on Connections and click on LAN Settings. And then click on Proxy Server, check the box. And we'll put in a fake IP address. And we're going to put in port 8080 instead of just the regular port 80. All right, now we're going to hit F5 and see everything's green. Let's click OK, click Apply, click OK. So now we have two different Internet Explorer policies, but they don't conflict with each other. The first one allows you to go to the new homepage, and this one redirects you through a proxy server. Now we're going to change the control panel because these people are really bad employees and they like making changes and causing the IT department all kinds of problems. So we're going to go to user configuration, administrative templates, and then we're going to go to control panel and double click on the prohibit access to control panel. So here is user configuration, policies, administrative templates, control panel, and then prohibit access to the control panel and PC settings. So let's go ahead and enable that. So let's go ahead and hit apply, click OK, and that's all the changes that we're going to make to that particular group policy. So now we need to go into Active Directory and create a new user and put that user into the Marketing and Sales OU. So let's go to Marketing and Sales and right click, and we'll do a new user, and it'll be client user. And the username will be client user, all one word, no spaces. Password will be the same password we've been using. Password with a capital P and a 0. Uncheck user must change, and change to password never expires. All right, that is now done. So now we can log in to our Widget LLC. I'm just going to go ahead and reboot and log in as the new user so that way everything gets applied properly. One of the other things that we were supposed to do in our group policy was to disable downloads. So the directions are in the lab. Go ahead and follow those. I'm sure you'll have no problem getting to that spot. Let's go back to our client and let's log in. Change the user to Widget LLC / client user. It'll take a little longer to log in because it's a new user, so it has to create a new desktop, so just be patient. All right, we are logged in, so let's take a look and see if the group policy was properly affected. So we'll click on our Start button, and we'll go to Control Panel, and it says, hey, you can't get in there because you've got restrictions. So if you're using the traditional tiles, you can just go to the Start button here, and you can look and look, but you're not going to be able to get into your control panel. So let's go ahead and go back to here. Let's open up Internet Explorer again and go to our gear there, go to Internet Options, and then go to Connections, and hopefully we'll see a proxy setting here, and we do. There's our proxy setting. So if they try to make any changes, that will not be affected. It will just continue to reapply itself. So we've effectively locked down our marketing salespeople so they cannot do things that they shouldn't be doing, but the rest of the domain is unaffected. And that's exactly what the effect that we wanted was. We didn't want to mess up anybody else. It was just the people that were causing problems. So let's go back to our lab for a final time and do all the screenshots you need to do there, such as the proxy address information. All right, so you got your list of screenshots here, and we've got our lab reflection. And did you have any problems? What did you learn? This is kind of a complex lab, so I expect you to have a few problems, but hopefully the video walking you through it will help you out. And the proxy server is being used as a content filter. So find a commercial grade content filter online and list the website here. So go ahead and look for a content filter out there. And then look at the pros and cons after reading the brochure and the customer reviews. Is it really expensive, more expensive than other ones? Is it less effective than the other ones? You know, who's saying good things about it? Who's saying bad things about it? So just give me a little synopsis, because you're going to be seeing a lot of content filters in your career, and you're going to be setting up the proxy settings in Internet Explorer in order to get that to work. So that concludes our Module 8 lab. I hope that it was informative and helpful. And if you have any issues, of course, you can always email or call, and I will assist.